Hello there everyone, your fluffy armchair Admiral Latter is back with some more hot ship action. On 9th of March 1862, two steel monsters have clashed over dominance at sea. After several hours of exchanging blows, the victor was not selected. The first battle between ironclad warships ended with a draw. In today's episode of Lots of Guns, we are going to look at April Fool's Easter egg, featuring the grandparents of modern warships, the USS Monitor and the CSS Virginia. We will begin from the build and construction of both contestants, and then I will showcase the gameplay as USS Monitor Captain, that you can also try for yourself in Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. Both of those ships and two Academy missions that will let you build both of these ships were added with April Fool's update. Let's begin from CSS Virginia. You can build and take command of this ship in First Casemate CSS Virginia Mission. Let me just quickly switch into game window and I will show it for you. So we are in main menu of the game. Let's go to Naval Academy and let's select First Casemate CSS Virginia Mission. I will go with more funds for both missions, just to let you know. So in this case I am going for more funds for CSS Virginia Mission. Right, so originally USS Merrimack, due to secession of Commonwealth of Virginia from the Union in 1861, she was burnt to the waterline and sunk by retreating US Navy in Gosport Navy Yard, currently known as Norfolk Naval Shipyard. Confederates managed to salvage the wreck and turned it into first steam-powered casemate ironclad warship built by them. CSS Virginia was ordered on 11th of July 1861 and was commissioned 6 months later on 17th of February 1862, about 3 weeks before her first battle. She displaced about 4,000 long tons. Her propulsion consisted of a single twin-blade propeller, powered by 4 coal-fired boilers and 2 steam engines, with a total power of 1,200 horsepower. It was pretty weak engine, isn't it? Managed to achieve about 5 to 6 knots. Her crew complement consisted of total 320 officers and men. As you can see, it is already pre-built, as I've been testing at least CSS Virginia for myself. Right. When it comes to armaments, she was equipped with 2 7-inch guns, which we could actually fit on this build. Some of the guns will be different than the original ones, I'm afraid. However, we got a pair of 7-inch guns, one per each broadside, aiming slightly at angle from the original course. 2 6.4-inch guns. As we don't have like part-inch calibers, I'm going to replace those with 6-inch guns, and they are actually placed in back side of the ship at those angled casemates. Right. A total of 6 9-inch guns 3 on each broadside in casemates, and unfortunately the game doesn't have, or actually developers didn't put 9-inch casemate gun into the game. So all I could use is 8-inch guns, because main guns doesn't want to go onto these places. I can only put main guns in back and forward casemate that is actually aiming directly along center line of the ship. Right, and finally a pair of 12-pounder howitzers that we unfortunately don't have. However, as we still need to install main guns, I decided to install a pair of 10-inch guns along the center line. I'm not planning to use them, however, well, I'm not actually planning to play as CSS Virginia this time, mostly because I can't recreate her historically. I will probably showcase a CSS Virginia gameplay in my later video. However, today we will focus on USS Monitor. I will just showcase the build to you. Right. Finally, let's go to armor. Armor layout was quite unique, as total armor consisted of both wood and iron plate armor. It is very hard to recreate that in the game. I could use math and do some calculations to eventually simulate a total armor hardness with only iron plate that we use in the game, because that's the only type of armor that we currently have officially. However, it wouldn't be as accurate, and I decided to just put values for iron plates that were present on this ship. So I consider that wood has no hardness at all in the game. Hence why some values might seem very, very low. Anyway, main belt between 1 and 3 inch thick when it comes to iron armor plates. As you can see, it was very, very thin armor. It was still sufficient for the guns that were present at that time. I can guarantee you that these cannonballs had a very, very hard time to actually penetrate through that 3-inch belt armor. Even actually bigger caliber of cannonballs was not able to penetrate through this kind of armor. When it comes to casemate, it was covered by 4-inch armor plates. Well, total of 4-inch armor plates, because those were 1-inch armor plates that were just stacked on top of each other, pretty much similar to roof tiles. And as you can see, casemates on this warship are basically forming a stable roof, with main deck being actual roof over the ship. But well, that's a story for later, I guess. As I couldn't find info about conning towers, or actually that forward and rear armored posts, I'm not sure how thick armor they had. I just gave them 4-inch armor, which should be sufficient to actually protect those posts. Obviously, casemate armor is a secondary armor, so that should be the armor of that fancy roof that we have. That is pretty much it. As a final note in regards of that casemate, as we mentioned before, apart from two 2-inch armor plates which were stacked on top of each other, it was also protected by 24-inch of wooden armor, and walls were oriented perpendicular to each other and angled at 36 degrees from horizontal to deflect enemy shells, or in this case, cannonballs, and they did, in fact, a great job. Right, so let's now move to our main dish today, the USS Monitor. You can design and take control over her in First Turret's USS Monitor mission. There, let's select more funds and let's start the mission. She was an iron-hulled, steam-powered, ironclad warship built for the Union Navy, currently known as United States Navy, during the American Civil War. She was the first such ship commissioned by the Navy. Her unique design was in fact designed by two people: an inventor of revolving turret, Theodore Timby, and a bit more known, Swedish-born engineer and inventor, John Ericsson. And it is believed to be the grand-grandparent of ironclad Dreadnoughts. It was a very unusual vessel and was sarcastically described by the press and critics as Ericsson's folly, box on a raft, or the Yankee cheese box. She was ordered on 4th of October 1861 as a response to Confederates' construction of CSS Virginia. Her total cost was $275,000 US dollars, or dollars at the time, because obviously United States didn't exist as they were torn by the Civil War. She was commissioned on 25th of February 1862, just a week after CSS Virginia. It is actually showing how powerful the companies that actually built that ship were. Right. So, let's name our ship properly. That is USS Monitor. Fantastic. And now it's time to build it. So let's get to the build, shall we? USS Monitor displays of only 987 long tons. So in our case, I will set it for 1,000 tons. It is, as you can see, a very, very tiny ship. She was just 55 meters long because she was actually designed to be as small target as possible. Her propulsion consisted of a single twin-blade propeller and a single vibrating lever steam engine that was using steam from two coal-fired boilers. All that was able to generate about 320 horsepower. That was just enough to allow USS Monitor to achieve about 6 knots. The crew complement consisted of only 49 officers and men. Her main armament was supposed to be a pair of 15-inch smoothbore dull-green guns, but they were not ready in time, and two 11-inch guns were mounted as a substitute. Let's go to 11-inch guns and let's install this fancy tower. Fantastic. They were obviously mounted in a single rotating turret. When it comes to armor values, USS Monitor was protected by 3 to 5 inch of belt armor. So let's set bent main belt, let's set it to 5 inch and belt extended as 3 inch. Her deck was only 1 inch thick, which we basically already selected. Fantastic. And her gun protected by a total of 8 inch of armor. I basically have no information about the top of that turret, but I will consider that it basically had the same armor as deck, which will be 1 inch. That is pretty much it. A pilot house, which is basically this forward armored post, was protected by 9 inch of armor, and that will be our conning tower. Fantastic. Where it is? There we go. Right. There were no secondary armament listed for this vessel. It is very, very important fact. Right. Ship obviously needs a funnel, so I had to install at least this one small standard funnel. I think that's the right place to put it. I think I saw a picture of USS Monitor at one point, and she had that funnel sticking right behind the tower. So that is, I believe, a good place to put it. Right, that should be it. As you can see, we got a little bit overweight, so I will use standard shells, I will use standard ammunition, and perhaps lower the bulkheads. Oh dear. Right, I might eventually need to I can't go any further. Right, I need to find a way to reduce. Right, I could use light cannonballs perhaps. I can't use light cannonballs. Right, I need to figure out a way to actually build this warship without exceeding the weight. It is going to be very, very difficult, in fact. Let's try to reduce. Oh, turret armor doesn't really work for me. So perhaps if I would go with a bit, belt armor doesn't work for me. Right, conning tower. Can I reduce conning tower? Yes, I can. So I had to reduce armor of conning tower by 2 inch in order to actually be able to build this ironclad. Can I set? No, I can't set bulkheads to standard. Right. Anyway, that is the way I have to build USS Monitor. I really tried to recreate it as it was historically accurate, but as you can see, the game just doesn't allow me to do so. Some elements are scaled improperly. Anyway, that is pretty much it when it comes to building of both vessels. So let's now take her into the battle and see how she performs in the game. Opposite to the history, today we will decide a victor of this battle once and for all. Or perhaps we won't. Let's have a look. But before we begin, I'd like to remind you to smash that subscribe button, turn on the notifications and share your comments down below. Okay, so the battle has loaded. We got 2 ironclads. So let's just detach them from our division. Let's set a speed. And let's watch this lovely battle. Right, this one stopped. Good stuff. Right, so let's have a few words about the first ever battle between ironclad warships as we watch their replicas in the game to repeat this performance. Shall we? It took place during Battle of Hampton Roads. The battle itself began on 8th of March 1862 when CSS Virginia, that at this point was still not finished and had workmen on board, along with 5 CSN support ships, Raleigh, Beaufort, Patrick Henry, Jamestown, and Teaser, engaged with Union Navy blockade fleet. The first Union ship to engage in battle with CSS Virginia was USS Cumberland, an all-wood, sail-powered frigate. She was first heavily damaged during cannon exchange with the new ironclad warships. When rammed by her, and then rammed by her, actually. This maneuver, however, caused the port side half of Virginia's iron ram to break off, causing a bow leak. Unfortunately, as you can see, we are engaging with non-sinking ship in that case. Anyway, the second victim of a brand new ironclad was USS Congress. After an hour of trading cannon fire, she eventually surrendered. It was not the end, however. While surviving crewmen of USS Congress were evacuating, the Union's onshore batteries opened fire at CSS Virginia. In retaliation, her captain ordered to fire hot shot, which is pretty much heated cannonballs, onto USS Congress, setting her ablaze. After that, damaged Virginia engaged shortly with USS Minnesota, but she was unable to chase her in shallow waters, so she eventually retired from battle with expectation of returning the next day to finish off Union blockaders. Later that night, USS Monitor arrived at the scene, just to see the still burning remains of USS Congress. The next day, the 9th of March, 1862, the world's first battle between ironclads took place. A battle between David and Goliath. A battle that will shape the future of naval warfare. After hours of cannonball exchange, numerous hits on both sides, many of which were fired at nearly point-blank range, neither of combatants have proven to be able to deal severe damage to the other. Eventually, later on that day, USS Monitor was forced to retreat to shallower waters to assess damage after direct hit to her pilot house. It turns out that the captain of the USS Monitor had taken direct gunpowder explosion to his face while looking through pilot houses, viewing slits. As it was getting late, and it was advised by pilots of CSS Virginia, she retired to Naval Yard for repairs, where she remained until 4th of April, 1862. CSS Virginia made a few more attempts to break the blockade, up until May the same year. However, she was unsuccessful in her attempts. She also failed to draw USS Monitor into further engagements, and the two combatants never fought again. Eventually, CSS Virginia has been destroyed by her crew on 11th of May 1862, shortly before Union soldiers captured Norfolk Naval Base. USS Monitor, however, was lost on 31st of December 1862, when she was swamped by high waves during a storm while under tow near shore of North Carolina. 16 of her crew members died that day. And pretty much that is it when it comes to history of those two warships. As you can see and as you can notice, pretty much similar to as it was historically, both of these contestants in the game are pretty much unable to deal any significant damage to each other. I got 53 minutes to prove history wrong and decide if it's USS Monitor or, in that case, San Eugenio that will succeed. However, I don't see much chances of this happening. Even on 3 times speed, both of these ships are pretty much unable to deal any significant damage to each other. I will try to eventually break the armor of San Eugenio, but I would expect him to actually burn me before I am able to sink her. My shells doesn't seem to be dealing enough damage to her, or my shells doesn't seem to be dealing any damage at all, in fact. So we'll see if I'm able to do anything in this battle. I will try to use time, high time compression, in hope that eventually my ship will break the armor of San Eugenio and cause perhaps an ammunition explosion. But I believe we might end this battle in a draw. Anyway, USS Monitor decided to fall back a little bit. Nevada managed to sneak up very, very close to San Eugenio, causing a massive fire on board, which might eventually turn the tide of this battle. She's still way faster than both of my ships. Oh, and eventually we prevailed because San Eugenio was unable to put out all the fires. So that concludes our today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, in fact, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. If you want to get informed about my new uploads, hit that notification bell button, and don't forget to share your comments down below. Have a great day and see you all later. Later. Out.